Welcome to IB Online. I'm MJ, your instructor for A-level Sociology. Our topic for today is agencies of socialization. As we have discussed and learned from previous lessons that socialization is a learning process that changes human beings into social beings, a learning process that teaches us to fit into the society well. Now, there are different agencies that socialize us. For instance, if we may name them, family is an example of an agency of socialization. So is the peer group, so is education, so is the media, religion, and there are many more. Now, these agencies of socialization not only are these different institutions, not only are these agencies of socialization, but at the same time, they are. It wouldn't be wrong if we'd say that they are agencies that maintain social control within a society as well. Now, taking this ahead, if we start off with the role that a family plays, family is considered to be the primary socialization agency. Primarily, like we have discussed earlier, primarily it is your family that socializes you. Your socialization within family starts off right after you're born, right after your birth. It is your family that helps you learn various roles. You learn the role of a child, you learn the role of a sibling, you learn the role of a grandchild, so on and so forth. It's your family that shapes values and morality. It is your family that teaches you basic norms that are essential for you to know to be able to fit in. It's your family that uses positive sanctions and negative sanctions to be able to regulate your behavior. Positive sanctions, an example of positive sanctions could be rewarding someone, an example of negative sanctions would be punishing someone. So, these are a few things that I'd want you all to keep in mind regarding the role family plays as a socialization agency. Now, a couple of references that you could possibly put to use. If we speak about George Herbert Mead, according to Mead, parents according to George Herbert Mead, he refers to parents as significant others. George Herbert Mead refers to parents as significant others. And when we use the word significant others, we are referring to people who are considered to be important for the well being of a child. So, again, when Mead claims that parents are when he uses the term significant others for parents, what he actually means is that parents play a very important role when it comes to this socialization process. If we have a look at what Parsons has to say, the prominent American functionist Parsons, according to Parsons, socialization is a one-way process. It's a one-way process in the sense that families or individuals within a family, they teach younger children things and they're expected to be followed accordingly. However, interactionists, now let me remind you, this is something that would make more sense to you as we proceed with the lessons ahead. For now, just to give you a basic idea, you might as well be able to connect to this better as we proceed with the syllabus. Parsons is a functionist, like I keep on saying, and all functionalists are structureless. A couple of lessons down the lane, you'd understand what structuralism is as well. So, Parsons believes family or primary socialization is a one way process. Parents teach, kids learn. However, interactionists, in contrast to structuralism, now on one end of the spectrum, we have structuralism, and on the other end of the spectrum, we have interactionism. Interactionists disagree to Parsons and believe that a child negotiates socialization. Now, what do interactionists mean when they claim that a child negotiates this socialization process? You know, a child, unlike Parsons again, because remember, Parsons says it's a one-way process. You teach a child something and a child would keep on following it. However, according to the interactionist perspective, this might not be true. This might not be the case. According to interactionists, children negotiate socialization process. Now, what does it mean when we say children tend to negotiate this socialization process? What happens is children, I mean, there are certain things that you ask kids not to do and they would still do it. If you ask kids to do something in a particular manner, they might deviate from it. So hence the word negotiation, right? So children, according to interactionists, they disagree. Interactionists disagree to Parsons, and they believe that children negotiate the socialization process. At the same time, it's pretty important that you also keep in mind that many children may receive differential socialization messages. Now, what does it mean when we say many children receive differential socialization processes? Now, within a family, even if you're talking about a family, there's a possibility that the mother is the strict one within a family. However, the aunts are not. There's a possibility that the mother would want the kids to get to bed by 8 p.m. However, aunts have other plans. They want to they're proposing playing a card game with the kids till maybe midnight. So differential, hence the term differential socialization messages. Now, taking this ahead and talking about the role that family plays through our course book. Although there are only a small number of family roles, these tend to be played out over a long period and involve complex forms of role development. So the relationships that are formed within a family, they or the socialization process that initially starts with the family, it goes a very long way over a very long period of time. So over a long period of time, relationships that are built within families or that are there because of family, because of blood, they go a very long way. So although there are only a small number of family roles, they tend to be played over an extended long period, and they involve complex forms of role development, especially in societies that allow divorce and remarriage. Adults may have to learn roles ranging from husband and wife, being a co-parent, a step parent, so on and so forth. So as we speak about the role that family plays as a socialization agency, as an agency of social control, we it is pretty important that we understand that family, number one, socializes kids, teaches them certain roles to be played, how they should be played, and at the same time, it's a family only that teaches a parent how to become a parent. Remember, a parent at the birth of the first child, parents at the birth of the first child, even they learn how to become a parent. So children development I'm sorry. Child development also involves a range of roles, such as being a baby, being an infant, being a child, being a teenager, and eventually perhaps an adult with children of their own. The ability to develop roles within the context of a group, mainly governed by relationships based on love, responsibility, and duty, means that we can make mistakes and learn lessons as we go without causing too much harm. Remember, we had referred to family as an informal social control mechanism. George Herbert Mead refers to parents as significant others. They shape both our basic values, such as how to address adults, and our moral values, for example, our understanding of the differences between right and wrong. Basic norms, such as how to address family members, for example, mom, dad, when, where, and how to eat and sleep, and definitions of acceptable behavior are normally taught within the family. At the same time, sanctions are also maintained, but these sanctions, like I mentioned, are maintained on an informal level, with positive sanctions involving things such as facial expressions, verbal approval, and physical rewards. Negative sanctions, similarly, they have a wider range from showing disapproval through language such as shouting to physical punishment. All of these are examples of how informally family maintains social control by using positive and negative sanctions, both by using positive and negative sanctions. If we may take this ahead and sprinkle a bit of perspectives. Now, these perspectives, as I have been mentioning earlier, you will not be tested on perspectives in paper one. You will not be tested on perspectives in paper number one. There would be no detail required here, right? So functionalists often see primary socialization as a one-way process that passes from adults to children. However, socialization involves more than an unquestioning acceptance of the behaviors we learn within the family group. So according to the functionalist, especially Parsons, he believes socialization is a one-way process. Like I had said earlier, you teach a kid something and then you assume that they'd learn it and follow it and adapt to it in a manner that is not questioned or criticized. However, socialization involves more than unquestioning acceptance of the behaviors we learn within the family groups. So over here, through the first line, we understand what the functional stances on this, and on the other line, as a sociology student, you show that despite of the fact that functionalists believe in this, there is a possibility of something else as well. Although children are socialized by being encouraged to copy behavior, they are also actively involved in negotiating their socialization. For example, children do not always obey their parents. They may even choose not to obey as part of a test of the limits of social control. At times, you do something bad just because you want to see if your parents are showing acceptance, and not really acceptance. You're just trying to test the limits. Shouldn't be done, but it is done. Children may also receive differential socialization messages as we studied. A relative may reward behavior that a parent would punish. Children have to learn that the same behavior may receive different reactions from different people in different situations. Faced with a new situation, they need to be able to judge what the reactions are likely to be like. Now, this was an idea that I wanted to give you all on socialization, on socialization, on primary socialization being done through the family. The next agency of socialization that we'd be taking into account over here is the peer group. Now, what do we mean when we use the word peer group? Peer group are the people of a similar age. The people, now, when you go to school, you come across individuals who are more or less of the same age group. As you're studying for A levels, all of your friends or the people around you or the ones who's studying this similar subject, a similar subjects, they'd be people of the similar age. So, peer group is a term we usually refer to people of similar age. Peer group is the agency of socialization, which is seen to be a primary agency of socialization as well as a secondary agency of socialization. Now, why is it that peer group is seen as both a primary agency of socialization and a secondary agency of socialization? Primary agency of socialization because it helps us shape our behavior. Secondary agency of socialization because we use it as a reference group. Now, what do I mean when I say what do I mean when I say it is used as a reference group? For instance, let me give you a relatable example over here. If you've seen how young kids they'll be like, uh, "Hey, can I have a phone because my friends have a phone?" That is a reference group. Can I have this gaming console because my friends have this gaming console too? Now, taking this ahead, as we speak about the role peer group plays in our socialization, at the same time, we cannot ignore the fact that the peer group, through peer pressure, plays a very important role in terms of maintaining social control too. So, peer pressure is a form of social control, and informal social controlling mechanism. Nonetheless, it is an example of social control. So, a peer group, through a peer group, we learn certain rules, certain norms. There are certain sanctions that are used within peer groups. These sanctions could be positive sanctions, these sanctions could be negative sanctions, so on and so forth. According to Hughes et al., remember this word et al. Means and others. So, according to Hughes et al. In 2002, your peer group shapes your attitude, your feeling, and your action towards life, towards the situation, so on and so forth. Now, talking about the peer group here, peer groups are made up of people of a similar age, for example, teenagers. They can be considered primary agencies of socialization because we usually choose friends of a similar age, and personal interaction with them influence our behavior, from how we dress and talk to the things we love or hate. Peer groups can also be secondary agencies because they may be used as a reference group, what Hughes et al. Calls the models we use for appraising and shaping our attitude, feelings, and actions. Now, according to Hughes et al., the peer group are the models we use for appraising and shaping our attitudes, our feelings, and our actions. So we use them as models, or in other words, we try to copy them, we try to be like them, we try to hold similar attitudes like them, we try to feel the way they do, we try to act the way they do. So, however, our behavior may be influenced by things such as the fashions and the general behavior of people our own age or status. This is an example of peer pressure as a form of social control. We play a range of peer related roles too, depending on our age, group, and situation. Friend, for example, expresses very personal role play, whereas at school or work, we may have a variety of people we don't know very well that are our acquaintances. In the workplace too, we are likely to play the role of a colleague to at least some of our peers. Similarly, the values we taught within a friendship or peer group vary with age and circumstances. However, we will probably carry the value of friendship with us throughout our lives. Peer group norms often relate to ideas about age appropriate behavior. Peer group norms, that are the norms that are formed within a peer group, they are usually related to ideas about age appropriate behavior. Young children, for example, are usually not permitted by law to smoke cigarettes or to buy alcohol. Also, it is generally not considered age appropriate for the elderly to take part in extreme sports or wear clothes designed for younger people. So, what we need to understand is peer group norms, or the things that are acceptable within peer groups, that have a lot to do with age appropriate behavior. At the same time, it is important that we understand what peer group sanctions are too. So, peer group sanctions or social sanctions are generally informal, and they include things such as disapproving looks and negative comments. Let's just say you're sitting with a bunch of friends and you do something that is typically not seen to be acceptable within that particular peer group. You might have to encounter disapproving looks from others or negative comments from others. This is mainly because peer group norms vary considerably, and the same behavior may result in different responses depending on the situation. Swearing at a grandparent will probably be met with disapproval. Swearing among friends may be perfectly acceptable. Now, your generation would understand this better than I do. Likewise, approving gestures and language, laughing at your jokes and seeking out your company may represent positive sanctions. Now, if you crack a joke, your friends laugh, that would show acceptance. That would be an example of a positive sanction. Refusing to speak to someone, rejecting friendship, or engaging in physical violence are all examples of negative sanctions that are associated within a peer group. So, as we speak about the peer group, a couple of things that I'd want to retreat and I'd want you all to keep in mind. Number one, we use the word peer group to refer to the people of your similar age. Number two, they are considered to be primary agency of socialization as well as secondary agencies of socialization. Number three, peer pressure is a form of social control. Number four, you need to understand peer related roles. Number five, you need to understand peer group sanctions. And number six, you need to understand how these peer group sanctions may be positive and negative, and which consequently leads to them maintaining social order, predictability, and order within a society. So these, my dear, were two examples of primary agencies of socialization. Initially, we had spoken about the family, and number two, we spoke about the role your peer group plays. In the next lesson, we'd speak about how certain secondary agencies of socialization and social control play their role. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you.